AskReddit by Spectacles88. Have you ever seen a normally calm person completely lose their shit? What happened? One of my teachers in high school was the calmest dude. Never yelled, never told kids off, would just laugh and smile and wait for us all to calm down and then continue with his teaching. One day we must have been particularly rowdy and we weren't calming down like we usually did. He couldn't get a word in edgeways. I could see him getting increasingly frustrated and eventually he just bellowed "Shumadu PPPPP." And the entire class was shocked into silence. He never had to do it again, LMAO. Reminds me of a Vietnam vet history teacher we had. Everyone would always ask a related question to know he would just go off about for the rest of the period if we didn't feel like going on about whatever today's topic was. Everyone always found out later that he lost 3 of his 4 kids to cancer due to his Agent Orange exposure. It takes a lot to make my mom yell. On the rare occasion she did yell, it still felt like she had self-control. Like she yelled on purpose, because there was a reason to yell, like she needed to be that loud for us to hear us, or one of the kids needed to learn to never run into traffic again. But one morning when we were teenagers, my brother was being really difficult. And my very sweet, soft-spoken mother yelled "God damn it Sean" and threw a butter knife down so hard it stuck, 1 stroke 4 inch deep, in oak hardwood floor. Against the grain. I can still hear the noise it made. We were all very well behaved for the rest of the day. Full stop. I did eventually ask my mom why she did that. Her explanation was that she felt she was too angry to hold a knife, even a butter knife, and was trying to get it out of her hand before she did something stupid. She was clearly right in her assessment of her mental state. I was chilling at a friend's house as a kid. His dad was the chillest, nicest guy. That day, my friend's mom, also super nice, was across the street talking to the neighbor about something that I can no longer recall. Neighbor was one of those guys who never respected common etiquette, music blaring, parking his shitty boat in front of other people's house, cars parked on the lawn. The neighbor started screaming at THR mom and we all went out on the stoop to see what was happening. As soon as we got outside, the guy called my friend's mom a cunt. Well, my friend's dad heard that and went full Hulk mode. He ran screaming across the street and just fucking decked the guy and crouched over him shouting warnings and threats. Took a while for his wife to calm him down. I don't think any of them had ever seen him react to something in that way, maybe even the dad himself. Warnings and threats after conking him in the face. This is exactly how villains should be explaining their evil plans. I worked as a line cook with a chef who I became really good friends with. Really chill dude, easy going, and actually super fun to cook with. He taught me most of what I know about cooking and I owe him a lot for my success. Never really saw him get mad until one day, we were getting slammed during busy night and one of the servers said something that really ticked him off. Not sure if I ever heard what it was, but next thing I knew he had sent the deep fryer basket flying at Mach 1 across the kitchen, nearly missing the dish kid and shattering a light bulb. He stormed off and 5 minutes later after a smoke break, came back and casually continued cooking as if nothing had happened. He apologized about it the next day and we never talked about it again. The restaurant industry is a stressful place. Oh yeah, when the servers start asking stupid questions it's very easy to get pissed. There was one particular time when Matt got super glue in his eye while on the line. Trying to continue to control the chaos of the kitchen, he goes into the back and you hear 3 loud bangs up against the side of the building. Dude had a sledgehammer he swung when he had so much pent up anger. That wall still has all the damage from him 5 years later. When I was in my late teens I was financially irresponsible and borrowed money from my grandparents to move out of my mom's house. We made a plan on how I would pay it back in installments and I only missed 2 payments. With each one I called my granddad and asked if it was okay. He was always cool about it. One day I got a call from him and he was livid. Screaming at me on the phone and I could hear my grandmother crying in the background. He was the angriest I've ever heard anyone in my life and I was terrified. He wanted to know why I hadn't made the payment that month, but I was sure I had. It turns out I had accidentally set the automated payment to be drawn from the wrong account and it hadn't done it. It was an honest mistake on my part, and I explained that to him. I transferred the money immediately and he instantly calmed down. I later found out he had become an alcoholic after he quit smoking, and he would talk to my grandmother like that regularly when no one was around. Sounds terrifying and a sad situation. I used to see this woman in my building every day. Very friendly. We always checked on each other's lives. We had lunch a few times over the years. It was friendly to a certain degree. A couple years passed. She was much older than me. One day, riding the elevator, she told me that she was saying goodbye. I said I was sorry to see her go and asked why. She said she was retiring that day. I asked if her office was throwing a party or if she was celebrated. She turned to me and her face contorted into an image of rage. She clenched her teeth and said she didn't tell anyone in her office, including her bosses. She only told the HR person last week. This was her last day and she was never returning to see or talk to anyone in her office again. I can understand her. When workplace becomes so unbearable that you don't even want to see the faces again. My husband. For your information, he works in a very hands-on clinic and has to be super calm and steady because he's poking needles in the joints, elbows and knees of squeamish patients all day. I was brought into emergency because my labor wasn't progressing. I was running a fever and baby was in distress. He knew an emergency C-section was the only way, but these two maternity nurses were just calmly chatting over my writhing form like it's tea time. He very calmly asked them twice to call for the anesthetist and get things going. But they knew he's always gentle and just nodded along without moving. More chatting. I was half stoned when I witnessed this. He slammed both palms on the side of the stretcher and said, "Is no one listening? Get the consultant in here." I was very proud of him that day. I used to do seasonal work sorting tax returns. Like 500 people in a warehouse size room sorting through returns, stacking them in boxes, etc. This one guy on my team, huge dude, a gentle giant, really nice. Suddenly one day he smashes the table he's working at, then flips a big box full of paperwork. It flew over my head and 20 feet away. He threw the table out of his way, then stormed out. Turns out he was getting his paycheck garnished for something or other. If the garnishment was for back taxes, the irony of the situation would have enraged me too. My mom. We had what we now refer to as the Jerry Springer Christmas when I was 7 or so. One aunt hated her sister-in-law and started screaming at her, then shoving started, husbands got involved, then it just continued to devolve from there. My mom went straight into mediator mode and tried to calm everyone down, but it wasn't working. She decided to come check on us kids and found my cousin and me holding each other and sobbing because we were scared. The next thing I hear is her scary mom voice screaming over everyone, "Listen here, you motherfuckers. My kid is in there crying on Christmas because her family can't keep their shit together for the one day a year we all see each other. You're gonna march your asses into that room single file and apologize to each kid individually, then you're going to shut the hell up until I get them out of here. We're going to go find Look." Edit. Thank you for the awards and kind words. Mara's tickled pink at all of the comments about how wonderful she is. I tell her every day how lucky I am to have her. All I can picture is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Gonna be the happiest set of assholes this side of the nut house. Colleague at work was getting chewed out by a customer about something completely irrelevant. The dude was one of the most placid humans I've ever met, but he just snapped and tore into this guy for about 10 minutes until the manager came down and took him to one side. Never saw him lose it like that again. I had a master sergeant at one of my units in the army. Dude was half asleep most of the time. I don't think I ever heard him talk more than once. One day all the guys get called into the large classroom and he's in there looking upset. He launches into a rant about how easy it is to pee into the toilet instead of on the ground in front of it. Dude was passionate about where people pissed. Drew a stick figure diagram all angrily showing how you use one hand to stabilize and aim the pee into the toilet. I had to keep from laughing because he seemed like he was about to blow his lid. TBF, would you want to trust the aim of somebody with a rifle if they can't even hit the toilet? Mechanic I worked with is getting verbally abused by a customer claiming he ripped him off. Guy's going off saying all sorts of racist shit, then stepped up like he was gonna swing. Henry beat him to the punch, literally. Then he calmly walked to the back office and called the cops on himself. Deleted. My math teacher in middle school. He would even brag about not being angry and how it was a useless emotion. One day this kid pissed him off so bad he swiped all of the kids' shit off of the table in front of the whole class and kicked him out. Mine was my high school history teacher. Dude was great, always cool and collected. Really one of the best teachers I've ever had. He also happened to be a former Green Beret, us Army Special Forces. One day we were in class and all us kids were being rowdy, obnoxious, and not paying attention in the least. All it took was him snapping with a shut the hell up for the entire room to go silent. He went right back to teaching, but there's still some heavy tension in the air. After a few minutes he apologized for losing his temper, but someone in our group collectively apologized for us and told him it was totally our fault. Only time I've ever seen a room full of teenagers humbled like that. My 5th grade teacher was a very calm and collected individual, except one time when a kid said her mother was a whore. She lost it. She was screaming about disrespect and stuff and even called her mom, put her on speaker and asked if she was a whore. In front of the whole class. I miss Earl Mayo. Wait, the teacher called her own mom on speaker to ask if the mom was a whore to prove to the class that she wasn't? My first semester in college I was in a math class with a horrible teacher. The entire class hated him. The girl that sat in front of me was very sweet and soft spoken. One day, I don't remember what set her off, but she just snapped and started screaming at him. It caused such a commotion that someone called security to check if everything was okay. The teacher quickly dismissed security and went back to teaching like nothing had happened. I've noticed this with people who are aware they are assholes. When people call them out on it, lose their shit, they try to sweep it under the rug, move on as quickly as possible and pretend nothing happened. My boss does this. I'm very chill, but every once in a while he pushes me over the edge and I tell him off. He often won't even respond or make eye contact and then pretends like it never happened a few minutes later. If they acknowledge it, then they'd have to apologize, and that'd hurt their pride too much. One time in high school, a couple bullies were up in this other kid's face. Dude was just sitting there like Anton Chigurh or PVT Pile, no expression and staring straight ahead, clearly not hearing a thing. One of the bullies inched closer, and the kid decked him as hard as he could in the face. The bully was knocked to the floor, speechless with his nose bleeding everywhere. The kid then calmly stood up, still with no emotion, calmly packed his things, and made his own way to the principal's office as if nothing at all had happened. It's still one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. It was like right out of a movie. Maybe he was thinking really hard about what one-liner he'd say after knocking that bully down. Quit the job on the spot. He went out of the office showing the finger to everyone and telling us to go fuck ourselves. Nice dude. I miss him. My brother did this at his old job. Our dad had just passed, and his boss had said to a co-worker, I don't know why he's still caught up about it. It's been 2 weeks, he should be over it by now. When my brother found out, he grabbed a sheet of paper and scribbled I quit on it, walked into his boss office, said fuck you, and left. One of my co-workers is a really calm, quiet, easygoing dude. We had a receptionist at the time who was terrible. Would constantly leave the front desk phones unattended. We would have to stop mid-service to answer them ourselves and check people in and amp out. One day, she pulls her same bullshit. The phones are ringing, people waiting, and she's nowhere to be seen. He just does a big sigh and screams her name in the loudest, angriest, most fed up I'm fucking done scream. She scurried her trifling little ass back up to the front in seconds like a little cockroach that knew it fucked up. Lol, I can imagine the rage. Opposite story, but I've seen a very reactive person become completely calm. And that's when I realized things are very bad. My father is very reactive and agitated easily. Doesn't take much to set him off. When our country was going through war, there was a city that had a big strategic importance. In my age, he participated in liberating it. In 2020, I remember the night we lost that city. I never seen my father so quiet and calm in my life. And it actually sent chills down my spine more than seeing him agitated ever did. The part that made me scared was I expected him to absolutely lose his shit. Seeing him stressed and upset would bring some consistency to my view of him. But seeing him so quiet was so odd, it was scary. If you don't mind me asking, what's the name of your country? This was probably about 12 years ago or so. My best friend broke up a fight between two of his younger brothers. I was scared shitless. His voice hit a tone I'd never heard up to that point, and have never heard since. Our friends dealing with their family hits differently when we have never seen it before. I fear the rage of quiet people because I don't have any reference on how they go mad. Edit. Grammar. Genuine anger was one of the world's greatest creative forces. But you had to learn how to control it. That didn't mean you let it trickle away. It meant you damned it, carefully, let it develop a working head, let it drown whole valleys of the mind, and then, just when the whole structure was about to collapse, opened a tiny pipeline at the base and let the iron-hard stream of wrath power the turbines of revenge. From Word Sisters, by Terry Pratchett. My middle school homeroom teacher was amazing. She was a science teacher and had a chameleon in a huge wall-sized cage. It was like 8 feet long, 3 feet deep, and 6 feet tall. It had branches for climbing, water, tunnels, just a complete perfect environment. One day before school started, she walked in